Hello, Withdrawal Warriors. It's Dorian again. Of course, I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe and share. Mandatory. Anyway, I am on here freestyling, just saying what's on my mind. And at the moment, I am very, very patiently, at least that's what I think, waiting on my healing. And anybody who knows my story is like, wait a minute, Dorian, I thought you were off of your medications. I am. And now I get to do life raw. I don't know. So I will put out there that I have one of bugs. I have one of the least fun diagnoses called borderline personality disorder. I won't really go into it, but if it gives you any indication of how difficult it is to live with my condition in, let's say, overseas, they usually call it, if I'm not mistaken, unstable emotion. I can't remember, but yeah, unstable emotions. We're the crazy. I don't really like to identify as that without yet again going into too much detail. I get behind the proposition that personality disorders like mine should actually be classified under PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because many, if not maybe all, you can do your research if you want to check on this, but at least many personality disorders are actually maladaptive behaviors that people have learned. Again, going back to my video, saying you're not crazy, you're likely having a normal reaction to a really bad situation. So especially, when we're developing our personalities, childhood, in other words, many people have grown up in just like, let's just say, not ideal circumstances. And we figured out ways to deal with it. And they may have worked at the time, but now we're all grown up and they're not working very well at all. So BPD for short, in the research, there's actually a anatomical difference. Like our brains, if I'm not mistaken, the amygdala is smaller, therefore we're more sensitive. We have like a smaller capacity to deal with like everyday life, and what many people can just deal with no problem, we got like freak out. And so we're looked at like we're crazy, we're overreacting, we're dramatic, so on and so forth. Anybody who can relate, I'm sure, can add to this list. I won't go down the exhaustive list of things that I've heard and ways that I've been treated, because I am the way I am. Not only am I a female, but I'm sensitive. Like I feel all the feels, and I feel them at like a 15 out of 10. And I feel them quickly, and it takes way too long for anybody, especially myself, to just like come back to normal. So this is all tying into drugs, because according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, substance abuse is really high on the list, including eating disorders. If you want to get literal, it's abusing food, therefore that's a substance. It's altering your mind. So what the medical community thinks is appropriate, and I'm not disagreeing with this in all circumstances, but they throw drugs at us, oftentimes without really getting to the root of it. It actually took too long for me, it's always too long, for anybody to get relief, for anybody to even put out there to theorize, maybe you have BPD. And I was like, I think I might have heard that in a movie. And once I learned more about it, that was me to a T. So I've had antidepressants, antipsychotics, which were marketed as like the booster, you know, like Abilify. They have new ones out there, which I'm not going to name right now. I have the brochure on my desk, which I might just go off one day about that subject. You know, sleeping pills. Yeah, that was basically, yeah, like antidepressants. Like, well, yeah, life kind of sucks. I would be depressed. It's the circumstances, not that like I have something wrong with my brain. I'm having a normal reaction to this garbage dump of a situation, but I didn't know any of that at the time. I thought something was like literally wrong with me. Like, my brain is broken. Give me a pill. And guess what? It didn't help because my circumstances were the same. So that's more discouraging. You know, I'm taking these drugs that were prescribed, and I sat down with a prescriber and all the things. I was even, once I had gotten on an antidepressant a long time ago, I checked myself into the hospital because of a really bad situation, shocking. And there was a locum at the time, which in other words is a temporary doctor, and I happened to be crying in her office. Is this surprising to anybody that I might be crying after checking myself into the hospital after a really terrible circumstance? Like, that's not weird, right? That's totally normal. So I'm crying in this woman's office, and she added another pill. Okay. All right. I must need to be sedated. I was on Remeron and Abilify, and eventually, because they were checking on us like every 15 minutes, and it was hard to sleep in the hospital. I asked for a sleeping pill. That was my first go around with trazodone. Excuse me. I was so sedated. I was falling asleep all the time. I could fall asleep at the drop of a hat. Once I got out of the hospital, I had fallen asleep at the wheel a couple times in stop and go traffic. I actually heard people happy about this change that they were seeing in me, and I think most of the time outwardly I would sound happy about it too, or I would say thank you, but inside I was like, I'm just like drugged up and sedated and not myself. So this is giving me validation still to not be myself. That in itself is depressing. So that was like my second round of psychiatric medication. I haven't made a video yet of like the whole journey. I have only talked about the last bout and getting off of it. So the point, going back to the beginning, so I've gotten off of that stuff, all of it. It's not for me. I've tried different medications, and I knew it's not that my brain is broken. I am who I am. I'm a sensitive person. Everybody needs to be treated with kindness and respect and love. And when we're not, we tend to feel a type of way. We tend to act a certain type of way. But everything that got me to where I was to seek help and get on these medications in the first place, I'm still dealing with that. And I've been praying and reading the Bible and getting like spiritual mentors and learning and watching YouTube videos. And you guys, I am exhausted. And I just might cry. I know God always holds true to his promises, and it's never fast enough, like healing, and healing doesn't even happen all at once. So what was I saying? And it's in God's timing. I have learned in this, I will say, desperate seek for healing and deliverance, that if it would have come too easy or come too soon, just like getting off of the medications, I probably wouldn't appreciate everything involved. I may not have learned as much, and I could easily just like go back into the same thought patterns or habits, behaviors, so forth. So in a way, it's protection. And a verse that makes me believe that it's actually a way to protect, as hard as that might be to say, is when an evil spirit leaves somebody, it roams around in the wilderness and comes back to where it was and sees that the house is empty, clean, swept in order, and will call 7 other spirits more wicked than itself. If we are filled with the Holy Spirit, then you can say that the house is not empty. However, I think that's still applicable, because I've actually met people who've had an instant deliverance, and not that I knew them before that, but from the way it sounds when I heard the story, and then the point that I've known them, it seems like it's the same, if not worse. I think it's arguably worse because the torment of being on both sides. I mean, if somebody is on one side in the darkness, ignorant or whatever, they don't know the goodness of God, all that stuff, and that's all they know, that's one thing. But then to be delivered and know the goodness of God and the power of God and everything that goes along with it, and then going back into the darkness, there's the torment of being on both sides if somebody doesn't choose one or the other. And I don't think you can honestly ever go back. You can't unsee what you've seen or unknow or any of that. So I think if somebody doesn't choose, if they're in the middle and wavering, double-minded, if you will, it's going to be perpetual torment. So, so I know I can't go back to all that stuff the way I used to be, even though I keep feeling the pull, all the negative thinking and giving into intense emotions at times. It's a struggle every day. I mean, somebody can look at me the wrong way and I gotta talk myself out of, like, don't take it personally. Maybe they're having a bad day. You're reading into it. So you guys, I'll be praying for you, and I'm really hoping you're praying for me, because this is torture. Relationships with people, it doesn't really matter who it is, but of course the closer they are to me, the more it impacts me. I know that we must seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to us. So I feel like there's idolatry going on for me. Being honest, you guys, because somebody can relate. If it's putting another human being at the top of my list, or expectations of any sort that are not coming directly from God, if I'm looking for satisfaction in anything, I don't care if it's like zoning out watching YouTube videos or something. If it's not coming from God, I'm going to get disappointed, I'm going to get hurt, and I'm not putting God first, so what am I going to expect? So I'm working on that. I know that's part of healing, because I've learned that even though God can do whatever he wants at any time, it could be instant, it could be slow. Essentially, we need to do our part. We can't sit around twiddling our thumbs, just like, I'm just waiting. Any minute now. You know, if I pray hard enough, if I pray long enough, not saying it can't happen, but it's also biblical that we have to do our part. We have to be righteous. We have to renew our mind, cast down imaginations, do the right thing, be respectful, walk in love. It's obedience. So, I mean, speaking of like the drugs and stuff like that, these drugs put people in bondage. I mean, you can be literal about it to where our bodies have a hard time functioning without it. That's why the withdrawal is so difficult for a lot of people. And even if it's like not so bad, whoever is going through that knows that their body is not doing okay without it now. That's bondage. To be dependent on it. And what if you can't get it? I know on survivingantidepressants.org, when I discovered it in 2020, and I've seen this happen at least a couple of times, even though I haven't been on there as often these past few years. The point is, they shut down new members. You can read it. You can't sign up as a new member because they couldn't handle all the traffic. They didn't have enough moderators. And my theory is that so many people lost their jobs, thus their insurance, and then their medications. Mine was, Sapphire's was $1,000. I think it was somewhere between $800 and $1,000 a month. This is why I really feel for people. Being put on essentially a sedative, that's not what it's classified as, but essentially a sedative, because I was like losing my mind because I was being treated like crap, and having to, if it came to it, try to come up with at least $800 a month. No. So people went out without their medications, and it was a train wreck. I'm willing to bet you could find somebody who went through that. You talk to enough people, and it probably won't even take you that long. Somebody went through that because of that. People lose their, without that debacle of 2020, people lose their insurance for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes the pharmacy just doesn't have it, and they won't refill you early. What if you gotta travel? I mean, there's just, people lose their medication. I mean, God knows what. So anyways, I'll get off of that. So the video's getting a little bit long. I'm going to cut it short. That's what's on my mind. I am praying, hoping, and knowing that I'll get healing. I just don't know how this is going to happen. So still keep on keeping on. I'm keeping on, whatever. And keeping it real as usual, at least trying. Because I'm doing life unfiltered, if you will, and so I'm gonna have my videos unfiltered for the most part, because this is what life looks like. This is what life looks like after a hot day and no makeup and really frustrated and tired, like mentally, and a lot of times like physically, because I have a horrible time going to bed at a decent hour. See, even simple things like that, like sleep hygiene, would do wonders, but work in progress. I'm not giving up. Put it that way. And you don't give up, because it gets better. I hope I didn't discourage you by saying that I'm still working. I think, you know, it is a lifetime thing. It's better now than it was, and so therefore I'm going to keep trying for better and better and better and better. And actually, it's not just about me. I want to pass these blessings on. Like, it's selfish to even ask God to do something for me if I'm not going to share it with the world. That's what we're put here for. So if you don't know what your calling or your purpose is, I would recommend starting with your passion. What means something to you, or what do you just love doing so much that you can't keep it in? The world needs that. So I'd like to hear what it is if you drop it in the comments. I like art. I got my art. I have kids' art from the daycare where I used to work, and some of it's my son's, but I have white wallpaper I'm renting, or I'm sorry, white walls, and so this was kind of my way of putting up wallpaper so I don't break the lease, even though I put a hole right there from a bit of a fit. I won't go into detail, but I don't know if I'll get my security deposit back. That's not the only damage done to this place. So that's a little snippet of my life, and I would love to hear how it's going for you. And my next planned video is how I got off of medication, and you can too. The negative 10% method. I love you guys. You can do it. I believe in you.